Hi, I'm Kristen Oaks White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
Well, the numbers for the USDA Market Facilitation Program, or MFP, are out. Some Louisiana parishes are receiving the highest payments in the country.
As TWILA's Neil Melanson tells us, that's not good news. It means farmers in this state are seeing some of the highest negative impacts in the country from the trade wars.
Football season is almost on us, and with his purple and gold farm shed, Russ Ratcliffe has been ready. His cotton crop is about ready too here in Tensaw Parish, where these pretty flowers bloom over plants with lots of bolls.
Very optimistic as far as our yield potential goes right now, especially in cotton. Corn, I think, is going to be okay. It struggled early with a very wet spring. I think all in all, we'll have a very decent yielding crop, but we just can't break even at these market prices right now.
The market situation is casting a dark cloud over these fields. Tensaw Parish is eligible for one of the highest payments in the Market Facilitation Program, or MFP. Even at $105 an acre, though, Ratcliffe says it just makes a dent in the damage done to the grain and cotton markets by the trade war with China.
The MFP obviously is a Band-Aid. We have to have adequate trade laws, rules, regulations in place so this stuff like this doesn't happen.
Further south in Evangeline Parish, Richard Fontenot is on his second year of damage from the trade war, 2 years of being ineligible for those MFP payments as well. He couldn't harvest beans last year due to weather. This year, it's prevent planting.
Unfortunately, with this program, MFP2, as good as it is, it does not cover the preventive planting, but it does cover all planted acres in Louisiana of program crops. So it's substantially more economic supporting than the previous one last year.
Farmers like Ratcliffe and Fontenot across Louisiana are hoping for bumper crops so the volume keeps them afloat.
Agriculture is not something you can rebuild in a day. So if we start losing infrastructure and losing family farms, generational farms to bankruptcy, you're not talking about something that can be fixed with a government payment.
The question right now isn't really whether or not this MFP program is a necessity. According to every farmer we've interviewed, it is, and the numbers don't lie. The real question is whether or not we consider farming a necessity in the United States. If you're concerned about where your food and fiber come from, you've got to wonder whether or not it would be safer coming from overseas to here, where they don't have anywhere near the strict controls they have here in the United States. We have the safest, most affordable food supply in the entire world, and keeping that way means keeping the American farmer and those here in Tensaw Parish in business. For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Neil Melanson.
East Carroll Parish led the state in payments, eligible for $106 per acre. That's no surprise, as some counties nearby in the Delta that are in Mississippi are some of the most severely impacted. The payments can't come soon enough, as the Trump administration announced tariffs on more Chinese imports earlier this month. Experts fear there could be no resolution anytime soon to this trade war.
Well, according to the USDA's latest crop report, rice harvest is nearing the halfway mark. As of August 11th, 38% of the crop had been harvested. However, yields are below average for many farmers in South Louisiana so far.
But as TWILA's Carl Wiggers shows us, those yields are much better than farmers expected when Hurricane Barry threatened double-digit rainfall on their rice crop.
There was some talk about some 25-inch rain totals.
That's what Crowley rice farmer Alan Lawson was preparing for.
And with a ripe crop, you're going to have water back up on it, you're going to have wind blow it down, it's going to sprout. It's just, that could have been just a total disaster.
He knows this because that's what happened on this farm in 2016. This time he received only 3 inches of rain and some heavy winds. LSU Ag Center rice specialist Dustin Harrell says Hurricane Barry hit the South Louisiana rice crop at a critical stage in its growth.
So anytime that flower is open and you have wind and rain, it can disrupt pollination and cause that grain to blank. I think that there was a percentage of our rice that was at that stage that probably had an overall negative effect on our yield.
Lawson is harvesting his rice crop just north of Crowley. He's disappointed in the yields that he's getting, but he feels blessed to have the crop that he has.
We really are very fortunate that we didn't get what we could have gotten out of that hurricane.
Harrell says the low yields in the early days of harvest likely indicate a below-average crop. However, that same trend could mean a slightly better ratoon or second crop. Paired with the hot, dry weather Lawson is harvesting in right now, that is welcome good news.
These fields are drying now, which allows us to manipulate the stubble and not make a lot of ruts out here, and so we can make a good ratoon crop.
We often see is if our yields are a little bit lower in the main crop, the ratoon yields will be a little bit better. So that bodes well for our ratoon crop going into the ratoon season this year. However, we never expect the ratoon yield to make up for lost yields in the main crop. It's not going to make up that much.
Lawson says the wet spring means that acreage is down. According to the USDA, Louisiana rice acres are down about 20,000 acres, and rice acreage nationwide is down by 200,000 acres. Fewer acres could mean a rise in the prices that farmers like Lawson get for this crop at market. And you guys, we can't replace a bad crop, but a bump in the prices can go a long ways. We talked about it with MFP, how that can just kind of help get that farmer to the next year, and that can be the same. That can be true for these farmers in rice as well.
Well, what's tough about rice is they don't have a whole lot of control over their own market, because on the world scale, the United States doesn't grow a huge amount of rice when you compare it to what they grow over in Asia. So the prices are often set by the world market. What really helps our folks here in Louisiana is when they can get that ratoon crop.
That's right, and that's something Alan and I talked about actually in the field is, you know, if they can get their crops cleanly harvested by about mid-August, they can really be able to get a good ratoon, hopefully. And they're actually, Harold mentioned this as well, but they're actually thinking that we should have a pretty good ratoon, assuming weather kind of holds as it is right now, hot and dry. That should give good, clean field conditions for them to get in there and get that second crop to make up for a little bit of a down first crop.
Well, farmers are always optimistic. Thank you very much, Carl Wiggers.
Well, if you're in the rice industry, chances are you've received a little piece of mail with some legal language on it concerning a lawsuit.
Louisiana rice growers, landowners, and stakeholders have received notices informing them that they are automatically participants in a class action lawsuit against the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry and the state's Rice Research and Promotion Boards. If successful, this lawsuit could severely impact the research and promotion boards, endanger Louisiana's share of rice markets here and around the world, and imperil the LSU Ag Center. Jackie Lower says he is opting out of the suit because a lack of research hits him right in his Acadia Parish rice fields. The card you get in the mail looks something like this, and it's easy to just discard it thinking that it's junk mail. However, you should know that you have multiple options, including when you can opt out. Those of you who subscribe to the Daily Voice e-newsletter have seen a more legible form in order to opt out. For more information on opting out of the lawsuit in general, you can visit our website at twilatv.org. Rice is not the only crop with combines in the field. According to the most recent USDA crop progress report, farmers have harvested 13% of corn across Louisiana. I'm hearing that yields have been a little hit and miss.
That's a little behind the 5-year average, but farmers are full steam ahead trying to get their crops harvested. Kevin Graham, a farmer in Franklin Parish, says he's optimistic about this year's crop, especially considering the wet spring and Hurricane Barry's early projections.
I'm Kevin Graham. My family and I grow corn and soybeans here in Franklin Parish. The crop started off, we were really a little behind, about 2 weeks planting what we wanted to, what looked like to be a struggle to get started. But since then we've really had pretty ideal conditions for growing corn here on the Macon Ridge. And the crop finished up with good weather. We've had good weather here the first week of harvest, and that's really what we're looking for is just a good month here to get the crop out now. We have cut for about a week. Of course, some of that's working bugs out of the combine a little bit, but we've cut probably between 250 and 300 acres, and we're just, I feel really blessed because we're cutting above average yields and really, really pleased with what we've seen so far. At one point, the eye was predicted to come right through Franklin Parish, and I mean, we're here with 2,800 acres of corn and very vulnerable to wind, and so we again feel really blessed. We got 3 to 4 inches of rain. If anything, helped our soybean crop and spared our corn crop. So we were really in good shape after that. Northeast Louisiana is really going to be a tale of two crops. Guys in the heavier ground have really struggled especially planting the crop and then a lot of rain, possibly too much in some places, and then the crop on the ridge here looks to be exceptional. So we again feel really blessed and looking forward. Just need one good month to get it all out and get it put in the bins.
This week, nearly every farmer in Northeast Louisiana with corn is in the field harvesting right now. As for South Louisiana, some farmers have already completed their corn harvest, which means they'll likely be on to soybeans very soon. Well, rice harvest, corn harvest, and now we're talking about beans. Goodness, it's a very busy time of year.
It's a very busy time, but also one in which everybody needs to keep safety in mind.
That's true. 1/3 of all deaths on a tractor happen on public roads. That's according to the National Safety Council.
With harvest season in full swing across Louisiana and about to be underway for sugarcane, now is a good time to get a refresher on what you should keep in mind before you head out on the highway.
When combines are rolling in the field, you might see a deer running on the road. I'm talking about this kind of deer, a John Deere combine that goes a bit slower than its namesake. Louisiana Farm Bureau Safety Manager Wendell Miley takes time to visit with grain farmer Donald Schecksnyder to talk about safety during harvest season. Miley says this orange triangle tells you this deer is moving slower than 25 miles an hour.
Be expecting that. They're going to be out there trying to get from one field to another to harvest, getting from the field back to the grain to bring their crop in. So doing those things, watching out for those slow-moving vehicles, I think is very critical to avoid collisions out on the countryside.
We just urge everyone to have patience right now.
Trooper Taylor Scrantz with the Louisiana State Police says it's important for all drivers to remain alert on rural highways.
As everyone knows, we have a lot of sugarcane in Troop A, and we work numerous crashes simply because people aren't being patient. Instead of waiting the extra minute or 2 minutes it may take to safely pass the vehicle, everyone's in a rush and they do so unsafely, and that causes a collision, and sometimes it becomes a life and death situation.
Trooper Scrantz says that impatience can sometimes lead drivers to forget about the rules of the road when behind a slow-moving tractor or combine.
Just because you're behind a piece of farm equipment, no passing zones are still in effect. If you're behind or adjacent to a yellow solid line, that's a no passing zone. You still cannot pass. You only can pass on a yellow dash line.
But it's not just drivers who need to be prepared to get on the road during harvest. Miley says there is plenty that farmers should do as well.
Making sure that SMV emblem, the slow-moving vehicle emblem, is clean. It can be seen. If they're going down the highway and there's a traffic jam clogging up behind them, pull over to the shoulder. If there's a wide enough shoulder, let that traffic clear and then get back out onto the highway and continue on to where you're going to. So a lot of things they can do. If they're making turns, especially left-hand turns, signaling, some of the older model tractors may not have signals on them. They may be using hand signals to make those signals that they're going to be making a turn. So there are things that farmers can do and should do to hopefully help avoid collisions from being hit by other vehicles out on the highway.
That's all really good advice. The AgriSafe Network also has a lot of great safety tips and even some wellness resources for you. To learn more, click over to our website at twilatv.org. And I bring up the wellness stuff because, one, it's been very hot out there recently.
Yes, it
so
has.
We've posted recently on the Louisiana Farm Bureau page some tips for being safe out in the heat. But farmers, no offense to your dad, no offense to your husband, and no offense to any of you farmers out there.
I know what you're about to say.
You tend to care for everyone around you and care for the land and don't remember to care for yourself.
They are notorious for neglecting their health. And another thing, the topic that when you talk about sun and you talk about neglecting your health, they're out in the sun all the time and they never wear sunscreen.
Well, we're reminding you, sunscreen, kind of like that speech that they had, during the 90s? Wear sunscreen.
Yes.
Please, we want you all to stay around for a very long time.
Well, still to come on TWILA, we meet a fungus farmer in Northeast Louisiana. Are you hungry yet?
I love me some fungus among us. But first, Kansas corn farmers get a sweet tour in the Bayou State out in a sugarcane field. Stay with us. Our sugarcane fields in Louisiana were recently invaded by the Corn Corps. Now don't worry, this group of Kansas corn farmers was invited by Bobby and Melissa Morris to see how things are done down south.
The group of young farmers were fascinated by this crop, which is scarce of north of Alexandria, much less where they're from. Despite all the differences, some saw echoes of what they do back home.
This is our third class of our Young Farmer program. We call it Corn Corps. and it was developed by the Corn Checkoff in Kansas. And we wanted to, the purpose of the trip is to bring these young farmers out to an area that's not what they think about every day. It's phenomenal. First of all, we enjoyed dinner last night with Melissa's family, and they were wonderful to host us. Got to talk ahead of time. Farmers are farmers. They always want to learn. They want to know about soil type. They want to know about tillage practices, about planning. We talked a lot about handling employees. It depends on where, no matter where you are, they're facing the same challenges. We talked about weather, and it's great to see them as young producers and kind of what they're up against, and a lot of the same things when it comes down to it are what our farmers are up against in Kansas.
You can follow along with the adventures of the Corn Corps. We'll link you to them on our website at twilatv.org. Well, there's a new farmer in Northeast Louisiana, and no, he's not tackling cotton, rice, corn, or soybeans. He's trying his hand at mushrooms.
I love me some mushrooms. As TWILA's Tammy Arender reports, Mike Roberts has turned a few hundred square feet of space in West Monroe into Shroomville, USA.
These are oyster mushrooms, something you may not expect to be grown in Ouachita Parish, but Mike Roberts is doing just that. Roberts has converted some warehouse space in West Monroe into growing rooms for oyster and shiitake mushrooms, something this home inspector by day never thought he'd be doing till he and his business partner were looking for options.
Came up with a game plan to see what's an end product that you can bring to Northeast Louisiana using our agricultural products that people forget we are an agricultural community. So we went online and Googled all the ingredients that's grown around here and what can you do with the byproducts, and the first thing that popped up was mushrooms. And this is a mixture of hardwood sawdust and wheat bran.
Roberts says the growing process is fairly simple with a starter kit.
You mix your mycelium, and your mycelium are the baby mushrooms. This is an air hole that lets this breathe.
Once in the bags, it's then all about temperature, humidity, and moisture, all of which Roberts can control even when he's not at the growing facility.
So it lets me be able to grow mushrooms year-round because we are in the South. You can't do that up north in Oregon or Seattle, Washington. It takes 9 months to get one crop up there. But here in Louisiana, we can get a crop every month.
It's great here. I like this.
And that makes Tommy Goldman at the farmers market at 7th Square in West Monroe very happy. Goldman is thrilled to have another locally grown product to add to his vast stash of veggies and fruits.
For example, these mushrooms that Mike brought in today that I just purchased, Mike probably picked or pulled wherever how he processed and puts them in these containers and brought them to me this morning, and you can eat them for supper tonight. That's fresh.
Now, guys, just finding out about the process of growing mushrooms in Northeast Louisiana has been fascinating. But one of the things I've always known about mushrooms is they are actually extremely healthy. A lot of nutritional value, from fiber, potassium, selenium, vitamin B, everything packed in these little mushrooms. So I realize everybody's not a fan, but I sure am, and especially when they're grown locally. I'm Tammy Arender in West Monroe for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
You probably saw in Tammy's story that Roberts is jarring some of his shiitakes. He's dehydrating them so they have a much longer shelf life. Then you can rehydrate them in soups and sauces. Pretty clever idea. He sells them at the West Monroe and Ruston Farmers Market, so go meet him out there. School is back for students and teachers across the state. That means it's time to learn something.
A new year means new lesson plans and teaching materials for teachers to prepare. What does that have to do with Louisiana agriculture, you might be asking yourself? Well, the Louisiana Farm Bureau Ag in the Classroom Committee has workshops planned across the state to help equip teachers with some amazing new resources. At these workshops, you'll learn about the new online commodity map that features videos and new information sheets for all of the major commodities that Louisiana has to offer. You'll also get some great lesson plans and activities to take back to your classrooms, regardless of the grade you teach. There will be 3 workshops held in September, beginning on September 10th in Calcasieu Parish, 1 week later on the 17th in Vermilion Parish, and on September 19th in Caddo Parish. In October, more workshops will be held from West Carroll to Lafourche Parish, and many more in between. One thing to note, these workshops are free to attend, but you must register in advance. You'll find all of that information as well as the full list of upcoming workshops on our website at twilatv.org. Well, ants are never welcomed guests to a picnic, but red imported fire ants are well received in Louisiana sugarcane fields.
TWILA's Craig Gautreaux shows us how there's a newer species of ant displacing fire ants in sugarcane fields, which has some scientists and growers concerned.
No one wants red imported fire ants in their lawns, but they do have a role in sugarcane fields.
Fire ants are considered one of our most effective predators of the main pest of sugarcane, the sugarcane borer. And preserving those fire ants within fields is considered an effective biological control strategy.
But a new arrival to the cane fields is threatening the fire ant's role in insect control. The tawny crazy ant is displacing fire ants in some locations. And these ants have a unique defense against fire ants, an enzyme that makes the fire ants' hurtful stings virtually harmless.
So whenever they battle with these ants, they get stung and they're able to detoxify that venom and continue fighting and overwhelm the fire ants with their sheer numbers.
The sugarcane borer can cause a major reduction in sugarcane yields if it is not managed effectively. Fire ants help control the borer, but the verdict is out on whether the crazy ant can provide the same level of control.
Early indications suggest that they are also predators of the sugarcane borer, but we don't know if they're going to be as effective as the fire ants.
And they run around like they are crazy.
Their foraging behavior is much different than fire ants. It's very erratic, ants moving in all directions and moving very fast.
While these ants do not bite or sting, they are still a pest and an uninvited guest to your home.
They have great pest potential as structural pests and urban pests, building into huge numbers and clogging up things like electrical boxes, and they'll even infest vehicles.
Right now, Wilson is examining the influence the crazy ants have on the sugarcane ecosystem.
Tawny crazy ants have been found throughout the southeast from Texas to Florida, and like the imported fire ant, are native to Argentina. Still to come on TWILA, what do baseball fields and pigs have in common?
We'll show you a modern day field of dreams in our TWILA Boost. Stay with us.
After a week of bleak news across the nation, we found a story we can all feel good watching.
Pork farmers Aaron and Tim Brenneman wanted to share their love of baseball and farming with their community in southeast Iowa. So the Brennemans built Pig Pen Park, a community baseball facility located in the heart of their cornfield and their pig farm.
There's a lot of parallels, in my opinion, between baseball and farming right now. It's America's pastime, and it was very old and historic, but it's all the same still. You know, the game may have changed a little bit, and same with farming. It may have changed, it may have improved a little bit, but that essence and the core of it is all still right there. It did seem like a crazy idea at first, but we thought what better way to bring people to the farm. So we built Pig Pen Park to share that love of baseball. I love pig farming because pigs are wonderfully complicated animals and they're a ton of fun to work with. Coming from the city to the farm, there's lots of notions about the farm, right? The part that was really exciting to me about Pig Pen Park is being able to bring people out to the farm that may have not otherwise come. And you can come here and watch a game of baseball, but you can also look in every direction and you can see parts of our farm come together. You know, we have nurseries, you have the sow farm where all the pigs are born, and then surrounded by you, of course, is the iconic fields of corn. In the middle of all of that is our home. And I think that was really important for me to show.
Now, it may be a little hot to do that in Louisiana right now, but that sure does look like fun, and we'd like to thank the National Pork Council for providing that video for us. That does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when I'll be in the garden for Blooming on the Bayou.
It's a little hot for that too. Yes. Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
For all of us here at TWILA, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.